Girlfriend want to save intimacy for marriage. So we broke up. 2 months later, she sleeps with her boss. Now she wants me back? Sorry, but life doesn't work that way. I met my ex-girlfriend 3 years ago. We were both students at the same university. I was 20 and she was 18. After a few months, we started dating, and for the most part, we had a very happy relationship. Our relationship was pretty normal, except for one thing. Very early on, she told me that she was a virgin and wanted to remain that way until she was married. This wasn't for religious reasons. My ex-girlfriend grew up in a very religious home. Her father is a pastor, and while she had been open with her family about not sharing their faith, I think some of that religious upbringing was still in her mind, especially when it came to not wanting to disappoint her father. As for me, I grew up in a different religion but was never very serious about it, and I am no longer religious. I never had much luck with girls growing up, and going into the relationship, I was a virgin too. And I still am, at least if you classify being a virgin as never having had close physical contact. We engaged in other intimate activities, just not that. However, as our relationship progressed, I became increasingly resentful. I could not understand why she did not want to have a full intimate relationship with me, though, of course, I never pressured her about it. I felt that while I was at university and pretty broke, getting married was something for the future. This issue came to a head in the last year. I was in my final year of university, and she was working in her first professional job. Her degree was shorter than mine, so she finished university first despite being younger than me. She was talking a lot about all these successful men she met at work, which made me feel inadequate as I was still a broke university student. Coupled with her still not wanting a full intimate relationship, it made me feel even more resentful. We had some arguments about it, and after a while, I felt that I should end the relationship. We wanted different things, and our lives were on different paths. The breakup was awful. She was crying a lot, and I felt terrible afterward. Anyway, it has been nearly 6 months since we broke up. We have not been in touch at all for most of that time. I have not been involved with anyone else during that period, as I was 100% focused on finishing my degree. I have finally finished university and am about to start my first professional job. She recently got in touch and asked to meet up. I was hesitant, but decided that we had so much good history that I should hear her out. She told me she has been missing me terribly these past 6 months, that she thinks she wants to get back together and is open to having a close physical relationship now. I was floored. I asked her why now. What changed? She looked uncomfortable. After a little prying, she said she had a short-term fling with one of the older men at work while we were broken up, which of course was fine as she was not my girlfriend anymore. Anyway, she said he persisted with her until she started having that kind of relationship with him. She ended it with him recently. She was clear that it was consensual, but that the man was very persistent in pursuing closeness with her. I was devastated. I could not understand why she would make me wait all those years, but was fine doing it with some new guy she had only been seeing for a short time. I asked if the reason she was open to having a close physical relationship now is because she was no longer a virgin. She said yes. I asked her to give me some space to process all this. I am conflicted and would love some advice. I have missed her a lot and still have strong feelings for her, but at the same time, it feels like I was strung along for years. It is hard to put my finger on why I do not want to take her back. Everything logically makes sense for us to get back together. I would even get to finally have a close physical relationship with her. But I feel awful about this whole thing and do not want to ignore those feelings. Here's an update, 8 days later. For the sake of this story, I'm going to refer to my ex-girlfriend as Ellie, not her real name. Today, I made the decision to block Ellie on everything. It felt a bit petty, but I needed to take control of the situation. Since we agreed not to be in touch again, she shouldn't try to contact me, but people don't always stick to agreements. With any luck, I will not hear from her again. And if I do, if she shows up at my door, I will remind her of our agreement and close the door on that chapter. It is time to stop being passive and take charge of my life, a life that Ellie will not be part of. I want to share some thoughts on the comments because so many people took the time to provide their opinions, and I appreciate that. The majority suggested variations of move on, a clean break. It's a strong recommendation with a lot of merit. A smaller group said to give her a chance and see how it goes. Plenty of people criticized me for ending the relationship because I wanted intimacy, or for being too focused on her being a virgin. Some accused me of breaking up with her just because she would not engage in a physical relationship. A few also said that my breaking up with her made her feel like intimacy is necessary to keep a guy and that it drove her, heartbroken, into the next man's arms. Some people took issue with me saying I felt she strung me along. On reflection, that is fair. Ellie was always clear to me about wanting to stay abstinent until marriage. I foolishly stayed way too long, hoping she would change her mind one day. She did not. That was my mistake. I strung myself along, really. She never led me on in any way. My issue when we were together was that we were not being physically close, not whether she was a virgin or not. Her being a virgin was her reason for waiting, but that was not directly an issue either way for me. If she had not been a virgin and still wanted to wait, I would have found myself in the same situation. Many of you say that physical closeness just is not that important, but for me, it is, at least as part of a relationship. You can disagree, and that is fine. Some people are okay being in relationships without physical intimacy. No judgment from me, but that is not what I want. Our views about physical closeness in our relationship were not compatible, so I ended the relationship rather than waiting any longer, hoping she would change her mind. It was scary to take that step, and I put it off for way too long because I did not want to hurt her. But I could not stay in the relationship just for her. I had to consider myself too. It hurt to learn that she was physically close with the next man relatively quickly after I waited so long. But she is my ex-girlfriend, so that is not my business anymore. She's allowed to change her mind. She can engage in physical closeness or not, with whomever she chooses. I do not get a say in that. My hurt is an emotional response, not a logical one. Logically, I see she did nothing wrong by me. I will get over it. It is just my bruised ego, if I'm honest with myself, feeling like I am somehow a lesser man because she took that step with the next guy. I know objectively that is not true, but it sure feels that way. I was not a perfect boyfriend, and I have made mistakes. I have learned from them. I do not regret breaking up with Ellie and still think it was the right decision for me. A few things have happened since my last update. Last weekend was the Australia Day long weekend, so I went on a camping trip in the Grampians. Good day to any fellow Australians. It was so refreshing to be in nature, to do some bushwalks with friends, and just relax. It felt good to talk about the situation with Ellie around the campfire. Most of my friends knew Ellie pretty well from our years together, and they had a range of views, just like the commenters on my post. And of course, I got the usual good-natured teasing about still being a virgin. I learned there's an expensive bottle of scotch they bought a while ago that's going to be opened when I finally… well, you get the idea. Those guys, haha. One great question a friend asked was whether I would have ever decided to reach out and take Ellie back if she had never contacted me first. The answer was a clear no. It was so obvious to me once I thought about it. That question cut through a lot of the confusion I'd been feeling. I realized I was being too passive in this situation and needed to focus on what I wanted, not just react to what Ellie wanted. By the time I was on the way home, I had already decided not to get back together with her, but that decision turned out to be pointless. When I was driving home and got a mobile signal again, there was no mobile network where we camped. A bunch of messages from Ellie came through all at once. She said she was wrong to ask me to get back together and that she's back with Tim, not his real name, now. She also mentioned that her relationship with Tim is more serious than she let on when we last met. She apologized for misleading me about her and Tim's relationship. If you remember, she previously called it a fling. She asked if we could meet to talk about it. I was not happy, so I just texted back. No, not very mature of me, but I was not in the mood to hear more about all this. I was surprised and upset that she lied to me. That seemed very out of character for her. She tried calling me, but I didn't want to answer. She sent another text saying, "Tim and I had a fight. I shouldn't have come to you. And finally, I'm sorry." When I got home, I made the mistake of letting my curiosity get the better of me. I looked up Tim online. His real name is uncommon, so it wasn't hard to find him. I found him on LinkedIn, which gave me his full name. Ellie is one of his connections, and he works at the same firm, so I was confident it was him. He's a director at their firm. He also has pictures on Instagram, lots of posts about his adventures around the world at various events and exotic places, as well as shots with an expensive-looking car. There were a few photos of him with Ellie, with their arms around each other, in Singapore in November. I guess that confirms it was serious. He wouldn't have public pictures with her for a casual fling. All that just made me feel bad. No good comes from comparing myself to my ex-girlfriend's successful boyfriend. Ellie is not my girlfriend, and I'm not in competition with Tim, so I won't do that again. My ego's already bruised enough. I've been living a very frugal life my whole time at university, also known as being broke. So I know I can feel inferior when I see people with wealth. That's another issue for me to work on. Anyway, all of this happened on Sunday afternoon and evening. On Tuesday night, Ellie knocked on my door. She said she knew I didn't want to talk to her, but she felt bad about everything. She hoped I would let her explain herself so she could make things right, and then I would never have to see her again if that's what I wanted. I let her in. I was not happy with what had happened lately, but I figured I might at least get a better idea of what was going on. It was a long, tough conversation over 4 hours, but here's the main idea of what I remember. When we broke up, she was heartbroken and said it took a couple of months before she started to feel a bit better. She missed me all the time and wanted to see me, but when I ended it, we agreed to stay away from each other and heal. In September, she met Tim at work. He was very charming and good-looking and showed almost immediate interest in her. She was worried it was just because she had just broken up with me, but she felt so much better getting his attention that she went along with it. After dating for a while, she developed feelings for him, which later led to them sleeping together. I asked about whether he had pressured her into sleeping together. As the last time we spoke, she said he was very pushy. She admitted that she was trying not to upset me and thought if she gave the impression she didn't want to sleep with Tim, I wouldn't think as badly of her. So it was a story to try and protect my feelings. I told her it just made me worried she had been forced into it. She looked shocked at that and said no way. She was actually the one who first wanted to sleep together. I said that although I don't like that she lied to me, I can understand why. I don't think she did anything wrong by changing her mind about waiting to sleep with someone. Yes, I was hurt when she told me she was sleeping with him, but I have no right to judge her for anything. She's a single adult and it's her life. I don't think badly of her. She started to cry and said something like, "I thought you must hate me now." I told her that I didn't. She then explained that she was sad our relationship didn't work out, but she never would have changed her commitment to waiting to sleep with someone if we had not broken up. After we broke up, she decided it was a commitment she made to her dad when she was still a kid, and it was messing with the life she wants now. So by the time she and Tim started sleeping together, she had already decided she was ready to sleep with someone special. I asked about her dad, and she just said, "He doesn't need to know." This is when she revealed why she wanted to get back together. Tim is older. She told me he's 32 and has been at the company for 10 years. One day at work, one of the women made a mean comment to Ellie about being another one of Tim's girls. She did some investigating, and it turns out Tim has a history. He has dated a long list of women from work. Many of them were young employees just like Ellie. The rumor around the office is that Ellie is just the next girl he will use. She was horrified. She accused Tim of using her. They argued, and she told him it was over. Soon after that, she came to me. She felt as if we might be able to start over now that she was open to a physical relationship. But my hesitation and time to calm down made her realize that was a mistake. Over the weekend, Tim asked Ellie if they could make up. She decided to give it a try. She tried to call me, but I was camping and didn't get her messages until later. I guess that means things are settled. I don't want to get back together with her, and she's dating someone else, so I know she doesn't want to get back together with me. Ellie said she wants to stay friendly, but she also wants to avoid me to be respectful of her relationship with Tim. She wants to give it a real shot, which makes sense. She hugged me, thanked me for understanding, and left. We talked for a little bit about our families. She said congrats on finishing college. She asked if I was dating anyone, and I told her that between my job and studying, I haven't had time. She laughed and said I'm still a big nerd. So that's it. Ellie brought me into the middle of her relationship problems. I wish she hadn't, but at least it's over. I'm glad I thought about my feelings and took time to think things over because it could have been bad if we got back together. The biggest lesson I learned from this is to trust my gut. I still care about her, even after everything that's happened. It seems like she's dealing with a lot between her new relationship and gossip at work. I want the best for her, and I hope she'll be happy, whether she stays with Tim or not. She was my first love, and I think I'll always have good memories of her. But I know now that I don't want to get back together with her. She's in the past, and I want to move on. Now I can focus on my new job without distractions. I've worked so hard for so long to get here. My new job starts on Monday. I'm open to dating, but it's not important to me right now. I'm not going to try to find someone new anytime soon. I have an update, and it's 5 months later. My ex-girlfriend, Ellie, and I agreed not to contact each other after some issues on her side. To help keep that boundary, I also blocked her, as suggested by others. Many of you thought I might see Ellie, who is now 22 again. You were right. When I finished university, I moved in with my brother for a while. He had just broken up with his ex-girlfriend and needed help with rent. That's where I was living when Ellie last came to see me. He eventually found a new roommate, and since his place was on the wrong side of town for my job, I moved into a shared house in the southeast of Melbourne. Since February, I've been working as a graduate engineer, and it's been everything I hoped for. I'm meeting amazing, smart people, learning a lot every day, and finally earning a salary after years of being a broke student. Having some money in the bank and being able to afford things like eating out is such a nice change. The place I live in is a bit old, but the rent is reasonable by Melbourne standards, and there are lots of pubs, bars, and restaurants nearby. The location and my housemates have been great. I'm seeing someone now. Let's call her Olivia, not her real name. She's the sister of one of my housemates. We met when my housemates and I had a barbecue and she dropped by. We started talking and ended up chatting for hours until everyone else had left. Her brother eventually told us to keep it down so he could sleep, haha. I asked her out that week and we've been close ever since. Her brother has been teasing us a lot, including making some jokes when she stays over. We decided to be exclusive 6 weeks ago, so it's still pretty new. She's so cool, and smart, and beautiful. The connection was instant and strong from the moment we met. We just get along so well. It's always a great time when we're together. Olivia is an accountant at a big firm. Last month, one of her coworkers had a party, and she asked me to come meet some of her work friends. We went inside, and Olivia introduced me to the woman who hosted the party, her coworker, Jess. There were probably around 40-50 people there. I didn't know anyone except Olivia. At one point, I offered to grab more drinks. The kitchen was in a different room. While I was getting them, a guy asked me to pass him a beer from the fridge. I introduced myself and he said, "Hi, I'm Tim." Same fake name as in my last post. He actually said his real name, which is unusual. We chatted for a couple of minutes about our jobs and how we knew Jess. Then I just said, "Nice to meet you," and went back to the group. I didn't recognize him since I'd never met him before, but it was definitely Ellie's Tim. His job and firm matched up, and he looked older than most people at the party, maybe in his 30s. Neither of us mentioned Ellie while we were talking. Later on, I asked Jess how she knew Tim. She said she used to work at the same firm as Tim, where Ellie also works, but she moved to another employer, where Olivia works now. Even though Melbourne is a city of 5 million, it can feel like a small world. On the tram ride home, I must have been quiet because Olivia asked what was on my mind. I told her that the Tim guy at the party was, or maybe still is, my ex's boyfriend. I said I didn't think he knew who I was, or if he did, he didn't say anything. That made me share some history about me and Ellie. Olivia was surprised and said, "You never told me you hadn't been with anyone before?" Then she laughed and said, "Well, we've changed that." She asked if I had any feelings for Ellie, and I honestly said no. I dealt with all that months ago. Olivia's work was helping to put on a fancy dinner to raise money for a good cause, and she wanted me to go with her. She thought it would be a good chance for her coworkers to meet me. We sat at a big table with some people from her job. They were all really friendly. One of Olivia's friends said she was excited to meet me because Olivia talks about me all the time. That made me happy. After we finished eating, I was talking to some people when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around, and it was Ellie. Tim was with her. It was really surprising to see her again. Tim said he remembered meeting me at the party, but didn't realize I was the same person Ellie had told him about. Ellie looked really different. She had always been thin, but now she was super skinny. Her red dress was very tight, and it showed how much weight she had lost. I bet her dad wouldn't be happy about that. She had a lot of makeup on and was wearing jewelry that looked expensive. She had even changed her hair from its usual reddish-brown color to blonde. She looked like a rich and stylish girl, not like the preacher's kid I used to know. I'm not saying she didn't look good. She looked amazing, but it was a huge change. Even though she looked really glamorous, I didn't feel anything when I saw her. No butterflies in my stomach, no excitement, just nothing. Ellie said she was happy to see me and had something to tell me. She held out her hand, showing off a diamond ring on her finger. I don't know much about diamonds, but it looked really big and expensive. I told them both congratulations. Just then, Olivia came back over, and I introduced her to Ellie and Tim. Olivia put her arm around me, and Ellie's smile seemed to disappear. I didn't know what else to say, so I just told them it was nice to see them again and that I wished them the best with their wedding. Tim walked away, but Ellie just stood there for a second. It was kind of awkward. Later, as we were leaving, I saw Ellie watching us walk out the door. Olivia said she thought Ellie still had feelings for me, but I told her it didn't matter. Life is fantastic right now. I have a cool girlfriend, Olivia, a fun place to live, and a new job I enjoy. It's been simple to forget about Ellie, my ex-girlfriend. A few days ago, my brother sent me a message. He told me Ellie came by his place and was asking about me. He did the right thing. He knew not to tell her where I live, so he just said that I moved. I was annoyed because she promised not to contact me, but she even made a new email address just to get around me blocking her. The next day, I got an email from an address I didn't know. It was Ellie. She didn't say anything about breaking her promise not to contact me. She also didn't mention that she went to my old place. The email said things like, "It was so nice to see you again. I've missed you, and the girl you were with is pretty. Are you two serious?" She also said that she and Tim are making big plans for their wedding next year, and she hopes I can go. I showed Olivia the email. She rolled her eyes and asked me to think about why my ex would send me that. She's right. Olivia is great at figuring things out and understands people much better than I do. Ellie can't have me back. I'm dating someone now and she's engaged. Plus, it's not like I would go to their wedding. Who goes to their ex's wedding? It wouldn't be right. I don't know why she's trying to talk to me, but I think she wants me to listen to her problems again. Or maybe things aren't going well with Tim. Who knows? Whatever she wants, it's not happening. She has family and friends she can talk to. I deleted the email and blocked the address without responding. Ellie said she'd leave me alone and couldn't help herself. I'm still going to keep my promise not to talk to her, even if she doesn't. I also made a rule so that any email with her name goes in the trash. Olivia and I talked about it afterward. I asked if she was bothered by the Ellie situation, but she said no. She's not worried, and she didn't think Ellie seemed dangerous. I'm glad none of this bothered her. So, nothing too crazy, but it does show you all were right. Ellie couldn't resist contacting me even though she promised not to. I was able to avoid her much more easily this time. Overall, this is a good thing. If you like this story, hit the like button and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep making great content for you. See you next time.